The calm before the storm. The Federation had spent countless centuries exploring the vast stretches of the 9 galaxies, cataloging thousands of species and civilizations along the way. The task of observing new species fell to beings like myself, part scientist, part observer. My job was simple enough: to gather data, observe, and provide reports on the evolutionary and cultural practices of species that were deemed potential members of the Federation. We were always on the lookout for species with potential for advancement, for cooperation, for economic growth, and for the establishment of peaceful, mutually beneficial relationships. When I was assigned to the humans, I had no idea that this assignment would change everything. At the time, I was still young, only 112 years old by the standards of my people. While my species had a long lifespan of 700 years, 112 was still the equivalent of a teenager, and this assignment was one of my first major commissions. I had served before, but nothing could have prepared me for what I was about to witness. Humans were an anomaly, a strange species in the eyes of the Federation. They were tall, strong, and heavily built from a high-gravity world. Despite their physical inferiority when compared to species like the Juran, who were far larger and stronger, humans showed remarkable resilience. In fact, tests we conducted revealed that despite being shorter by a meter than the Juran, humans could match their strength and speed under certain conditions. Their potential was limitless, but we didn't fully understand just how limitless it was. The more we studied them, the more we realized that humans had an extraordinary ability to adapt and thrive in even the harshest environments. Unlike the other species we had encountered, their potential was not inborn. It was cultivated through effort, ingenuity, and sheer willpower. They had endured wars, famines, and unimaginable hardships. Yet they always found a way to survive. Each generation of humans advanced faster than the last, outpacing every species we had studied in the Federation. Their technology, in particular, grew at an unprecedented rate. Within just 2.5 centuries, they had gone from primitive, warring tribes to a technological power capable of reaching out into the stars. This technological leap, combined with their ability to innovate and solve problems with rapid efficiency, made them a prime candidate for membership in the Federation. It had always been our way to observe species from a distance, allowing them to evolve on their own. And then, when the time was right, we made contact. The process was always the same. We would appear in a large cloaked ship, hovering just beyond their planetary boundaries, out of range of their most advanced weapons. Once we were sure they were ready for first contact, we would broadcast a simple message offering friendship and assistance. In most cases, the first contact went smoothly. Some species were hesitant, others were frightened or angry, but they all eventually came around once they understood what we offered. Our technology, our resources, and our knowledge were more than enough to sway them. But with humanity, things were different. The process had been delayed for many years. Political instability on their homeworld had kept them in a state of constant conflict, with nations vying for power, resources dwindling, and ecological collapse on the horizon. Despite this, the humans were a species we couldn't ignore. They were on the verge of something much greater than they realized, and we had been watching them closely, gathering data, and making predictions about their future. The time for contact was nearly upon us, and the Federation was eager to make its move. Ambassador Sharon, one of our most seasoned diplomats, was convinced that humanity was ready. The political turmoil had settled, and the human nations were focusing on the most pressing issues: ecological recovery, dwindling resources, and the looming energy crisis. Though tensions remained high between various factions, the potential for cooperation was greater than ever. We were going to offer them the solutions they so desperately needed: energy technology, resource management, and the promise of a peaceful alliance in the greater galaxy. But then came the Sorrow incident. It was supposed to be a routine operation. We had cloaked our ship, disguised our presence, and waited for the right moment to reveal ourselves to humanity. Our sensors had detected a peaceful moment in human history. an opportunity for them to accept our presence without fear or suspicion. The ambassador and the captain were confident that we could make the introduction without incident. The Federation's track record had been flawless for over 7,000 years, and we had every reason to believe that humanity would be no different. However, the moment we made contact, everything changed. I was sitting in my quarters, reviewing data and reports on the humans when the alarms began to blare throughout the ship. My heart raced, and I rushed to the control center, barely able to comprehend the chaos unfolding around me. Abnormal radiation readings filled the monitors, followed by cascading psionic signals that overloaded the ship's systems. There were reports of power outages, energy surges, and inexplicable interference on every level. I barely had time to process the information before the ship was rocked by a series of violent tremors. It wasn't just our ship. This was felt throughout the entire star system. Even with our cloaking shields in place, the ripples of the disturbance reverberated across the cosmos. We weren't the only ones who felt it. The humans on the surface of their planet did as well. From the cloaked ship, we could see a strange, menacing cloud forming over a small peninsula in Italy, near a city called Saro. The cloud was an unnatural blend of purple and blue, almost as if it were alive, swirling and expanding, consuming everything in its path. It was as if the very fabric of reality had been torn open. The surrounding land was disintegrating, disappearing into the air. In an instant, we knew that the damage had been catastrophic. Initial scans showed that the region had been completely wiped out. Thousands of human lives were lost in an instant, and yet, the worst was yet to come. Over the next few days, our crew scrambled to make sense of what had happened. We conducted scans, analyzed the data, and tried to determine the cause of the devastation. And then we discovered something that defied all logic. There was a psionic signature emanating from the epicenter of the disaster. The signature was beyond anything we had ever encountered. It was so powerful that it nearly overloaded our sensors. It seemed to pulse with an energy that felt unnatural, as though it was an entity unto itself. As the hours passed, more disturbing signs began to emerge. The psionic pulse continued to grow stronger, and soon, it affected members of our own crew. One of the Federation's top telepaths, Lan, a member of the Coronat species, collapsed in agony as the psionic waves overwhelmed her mind. She wept uncontrollably, as though she had experienced a catastrophic loss of hope. It took 7 of our crew members to restrain her, and we had to administer multiple doses of anti-psionic drugs just to stabilize her. What we had just witnessed was something unimaginable. This wasn't just a catastrophic event. It was something more. Something that humanity had unleashed, intentionally or not, through some unknown means. The more we investigated, the more we realized that this event was only the beginning. It was as though humanity had touched something ancient, something beyond their comprehension. We had thought we knew power. We had studied countless species across the galaxies, and we had assumed that we understood the limits of what could be done. But humanity had just proven us wrong. They had reached out, and in doing so, had unlocked something that even we could not have foreseen. The question was, could we stop what had begun, or had humanity, for better or worse, just taken the first step in a journey that would reshape the entire galaxy? The ripple of power. The days following the Saro incident were filled with uncertainty. We were in uncharted territory, and none of our sensors could provide us with the information we needed. The Federation had always prided itself on its vast knowledge of the galaxy, on its understanding of the forces that govern not just the material world, but the very fabric of reality itself. But the events that unfolded after the eruption in Italy, if we could even call it that, defied everything we thought we knew about energy, matter, and psionics. Humanity had unleashed something, but what exactly that something was, we had no way of knowing. The psionic signature was unlike anything we had encountered before. It wasn't just powerful, it was ancient. It carried the echoes of something that had been dormant for millennia, something that might have once been a natural force, but had now been, through some means, triggered into a violent, overwhelming manifestation. I spent countless hours in the ship's control center, analyzing data, reviewing scans, and trying to piece together the events that led to the catastrophic event. The Federation's top scientists and strategists worked tirelessly, but the more we examined the data, the more baffling it became. The sheer magnitude of the psionic wave that radiated from the Saro region was staggering. It wasn't just a psychic disturbance. It was a breach, a rift into something deeper, a force that humanity had either tapped into or unknowingly awakened. And that terrified us. Our initial calculations indicated that the energy released was enough to cause severe disruptions to the local space-time continuum. It wasn't simply the destructive force that ravaged the land, but the aftermath, the ripples that continued to spread outward. These ripples, like shockwaves through space, were distorting gravitational fields, destabilizing nearby planetary systems, and, more disturbingly, sending out tendrils of psionic influence that reached out beyond the human world. The Federation had never encountered such a phenomenon. Even the most advanced races in the galaxy, those who could manipulate time and space, had never demonstrated such raw, untempered power. In all our eons of exploration, we had always relied on technology, diplomacy, and calculated strategies to maintain control. But humanity's reckless and spontaneous use of this power was not something we could predict or control. We began to realize that humanity had touched something far older and far more dangerous than any of us had anticipated. It was Ambassador Sharon, the ever-optimistic diplomat, who first suggested the unthinkable. Perhaps, he said, we should approach them, not as a species ready to join the Federation, but as a species who may be beyond us, a species that might now possess the power to reshape the galaxy. His words sent a chill through the room. The idea that humanity had, by accident or design, unlocked a power that no other species had access to was not just a shock. It was a dire revelation. If they could wield this power, there was no telling what might happen. Yet, despite the overwhelming fear that began to take hold of the Federation's leadership, there was a small growing sense of awe at the potential of this newfound power. As much as we feared the unknown, we couldn't help but wonder if this was humanity's true purpose. Had they, too, been destined to shake the universe in their own way? Could they rise to become something greater than the sum of their parts? Despite the magnitude of the situation, there was no immediate course of action. We couldn't directly intervene without further evidence. It was clear that humanity had unwittingly opened a door into something vast and unfathomable, but without understanding the true nature of this power, any intervention could be catastrophic. So, we waited. We studied. We listened. The psionic pulses were still rippling through the system, and we could feel their influence even from our vantage point, thousands of light years away. But even as we gathered our findings, something inside me shifted. I couldn't shake the feeling that we were witnessing the beginning of something extraordinary. The very fact that humanity had reached out and triggered this unknown force was itself an act of unyielding determination and audacity. We had underestimated them. No, we had ignored them. Humanity, despite their short time in the galaxy and their apparent lack of understanding of their own potential, had proven something that shook the foundation of the Federation's belief in its own supremacy. I wasn't the only one who began to see this in a new light. There were whispers among the Federation scientists, rumors that humanity might have discovered a force older than the Federation itself, a force that could transcend the limitations of even the most advanced species in the galaxy. What if the Aether, as some of the early reports referred to it, was not just a psionic anomaly, but something more, a key to unlocking the secrets of the universe? And if humanity had touched it, would they be able to control it, or would it control them? As these questions filled the air, a sense of urgency began to settle over the Federation. We couldn't afford to wait much longer. Despite the growing fears, despite the overwhelming uncertainty, we needed to understand humanity's role in all of this. We needed to know if this was a gift, a curse, or something in between. The awakening. The stars outside the ship's viewport seemed to swirl and shift, as if reacting to the changes unfolding within our own vessel. Ambassador Sharon sat silently in his chair, his typically confident demeanor replaced with an air of quiet contemplation. We were approaching Earth. We had been observing the humans for centuries, cataloging their progress, studying their evolution, and now, the very foundation of our knowledge was about to be tested. No longer were they just a species to be cataloged in our records, a potential member of the Federation to be assessed and offered membership. They had become something else entirely, a force that could challenge everything we thought we understood. "Do you think they're ready?" I asked, breaking the silence. My voice was shaky, uncertain. We had always been the ones who held the power, who made the decisions, who offered our knowledge freely to those who were worthy. But now, with the unknown force humanity had unleashed still hanging heavy in the air, I wondered if we were walking into something far beyond our control. Ambassador Sharon's sharp eyes met mine, his face a mask of stoic calm. The humans have always been unpredictable. They're driven by a force we still can't quite grasp: desire, ambition, necessity, survival. But what they've done now is different. I've never seen anything like it. I knew exactly what he meant. The psionic eruption that had radiated from the Saro region on Earth was not just an isolated event. It was a signal, an invitation, or perhaps a warning. No one could say for certain what had caused it or what the consequences would be. It had shaken the fabric of the universe itself, setting off ripples that could be felt across galaxies. And in the midst of all this chaos, we were about to make our move. But what would we find when we arrived? The Federation had always prided itself on its knowledge and control. We had helped countless civilizations evolve, had guided them to prosperity, offered them our resources, and extended the hand of friendship. Yet now, as we approached Earth, we were no longer the teachers. We were the students. For the first time, we were the ones seeking answers. The ship's intercom buzzed, pulling me from my thoughts. "Ambassador Sharon," said the voice of the ship's captain, his tone professional but laced with urgency. "We're entering Earth's orbit now. We've intercepted multiple transmissions from human defense forces. They're aware of our presence." I could feel the weight of the moment settle in. Earth's governments had always been divided, and while we knew that humanity's power had grown exponentially, we had no idea how they would react to our arrival. Would they see us as saviors offering solutions, or would they perceive us as a threat, a species that had come to conquer rather than collaborate? Ambassador Sharon's lips curved into a thin, knowing smile. "It seems the time has come. Prepare for first contact." The ship slowly drifted into position, cloaked but visible to Earth's systems. It was a calculated move, one that would make the humans realize we were not just passing by. We were here to stay. The Federation's way of making contact had always been predictable, methodical. We would present ourselves as advanced, peaceful, and ready to help, but there was no way to predict how the humans would respond, especially now that they were no longer the same species we had once studied from a distance. As the ship descended through Earth's atmosphere, our sensors detected the presence of thousands of human ships surrounding the planet. These were not ships meant for exploration or trade. These were weapons, warships, and defense systems that humanity had constructed, possibly in response to the ripple we had sensed. It was a sobering reminder of how far humanity had come. No longer were they a species just beginning to grasp space travel. They were now a force to be reckoned with. A series of blaring alarms interrupted our thoughts as the ship's systems began to react to the defensive measures in place. A sudden burst of energy shot through the ship, causing systems to flicker and surge. I quickly turned to the captain, who was working furiously to stabilize the ship. "What's happening?" I demanded. The captain's face was drawn tight with concentration. "They've detected us, Ambassador. The humans are locking onto our ship with their weapons. They know we're here." The realization hit me like a cold wave. This was no longer a peaceful negotiation. Humanity had already moved past the stage of merely seeking peace. They were preparing for war. In that moment, everything seemed to shift. We had come to offer humanity the chance to join the Federation, to offer them our knowledge and technology in the hopes of forging a new alliance. But now, with their weapons trained on us, it seemed we were about to experience firsthand just how powerful they had become. Ambassador Sharon's voice was calm but urgent. Activate the cloaking shields now. We cannot let them see our full capabilities just yet. We need time to analyze the situation and communicate with them. The ship shimmered as its cloaking system activated, becoming nearly invisible to human radar and sensors. For a moment, I could breathe again. The human ships around us were still searching for us, but our presence had been hidden, at least for now. As we hovered silently above Earth, I couldn't help but wonder, had we made the right choice in revealing ourselves? Humanity's rapid evolution had caught us off guard, and now, as we faced their defenses, I began to realize just how little we understood about them. Their reaction to our arrival was not one of cautious curiosity, but of immediate defense. Could this be the result of the Aether, the psionic force that had been unleashed? Was this a sign that humanity was preparing for something greater, something that would allow them to not only defend themselves from us, but to perhaps challenge us on an even playing field? The hours dragged on as we observed the humans, as we studied their defensive measures, and as we attempted to make contact. But despite our best efforts, every attempt to communicate was met with resistance. The humans were not interested in our promises of peace. Instead, they were focused on preparing for a conflict, one that, if left unchecked, could threaten the stability of the entire galaxy. But there was something more. I could feel it in my bones, something deep within me that told me this was not just a battle of weapons. This was something greater, something far beyond anything the Federation had ever encountered. The humans, for all their flaws and struggles, were now standing at the precipice of something monumental. They had touched the Aether, and it was beginning to change them. As the cloaking system began to flicker under the strain of the tension, I knew that whatever humanity had unleashed was far from over. They were only beginning to understand the power they had awoken. And in that moment, I realized something that shook me to my core. We were no longer the most advanced species in the galaxy. Humanity had just entered the arena, and they were about to change everything. Not as the Federation that had once believed it knew all the answers, but as a race desperate to understand something far beyond its own understanding. We had watched humanity from afar, cataloging their successes and failures, but now we would face them directly. We had to, not just for our sake, but for theirs. The journey was tense, filled with uncertainty as we neared the planet. We had no idea what to expect. The Saro incident had shaken us all, but it had also lit a fire beneath us. Humanity had taken its first steps into the unknown, and with it, they had changed everything. I didn't know, but I knew this. The Federation had never been more uncertain about its future, and humanity, once thought to be just another species to be observed, had now become the most important species in the galaxy. We were about to find out just how far humanity would go, and whether we were ready for the journey ahead.